She is small enough to disappear inside a closed hand. A little stone woman, scarcely longer than a finger, with a heavy belly and lowered head. Her breasts hang over the upper body, her thighs pressed together, while the legs taper downward and end without feet. She cannot stand by herself, and that detail matters. This figure was never designed for a pedestal. She was not meant to dominate a chamber or command a crowd. Her scale belongs to the hand. She could be held, wrapped, carried, hidden, or pressed against the body. Around 25,000 years ago, someone shaped her from limestone, cutting deeply around the belly and carving fine grooves across the head. Red ochre was rubbed into the surface, giving pale stone the color of earth or dried blood. Then the figure entered human life. She may have traveled through a cold valley beside the Danube, resting inside a pouch while hunters crossed open ground. Perhaps she was carried by a pregnant woman, an elder, or someone whose religious role has left no surviving name. Every explanation begins with the same frustration. The figure remains, while the people who understood her are gone. No prayer survives. No story tells us who she was. We possess the object, though the world that made it has disappeared. Today she is called the Venus of Willendorf, a name that gives her a classical dignity she never requested. Venus belonged to Rome. She inhabited temples and polished statues. The woman from Willendorf had already been ancient for many thousands of years before anyone spoke the name Venus. Archaeologists coined the title because the figure seemed female and emphatically bodily. The word gathered beauty, sexuality, and fertility around her at once, while importing assumptions from a much later world. The prehistoric maker did not know Venus. He or she knew this form, a body without a face, a woman without feet, a figure made for travel. The Venus of Willendorf was discovered in 1908 near a small Austrian village beside the Danube. She is about 11 centimeters tall. Her body is rounded, though not soft in the manner of later naturalistic sculpture. The form has been concentrated. The breasts are full and low. The abdomen projects, while a deep fold lies above the pubic region. The hips broaden into heavy thighs. Her arms are slight and rest across the breasts. Above them, the head bends forward. No eyes have been carved, and no mouth appears. Instead, rows of curved grooves cover the head. They may represent braided hair. They may form a woven cap. They may conceal the face on purpose. The maker gave careful attention to the head while denying us a recognizable person. And that combination is one of the figure's greatest mysteries. The body seems specific. The identity does not. She may represent no individual woman. Perhaps she gathers many women into one form. The mother rather than a mother, the ancestor rather than one remembered relative, the female body understood as a power before it was understood as a portrait. Similar figures have been found across a great distance. Some were carved from ivory, while others were shaped from stone or clay. Their forms vary, though many direct attention toward the breasts, belly, and hips. These objects are often grouped together as Venus figurines. The category is useful, though dangerous. A figure made in one region may have served a different purpose from a figure made thousands of years later somewhere else. Similar bodies do not guarantee identical beliefs. Modern scholarship likes categories because categories keep the cabinet tidy. Prehistoric religion may have been less cooperative. Still, the resemblance deserves attention. Again and again, people carved the female body into portable form. The repeated choice suggests that the body carried meaning beyond personal likeness. That meaning may have involved pregnancy or abundance. It may have involved the authority of age. The truth could have combined these ideas in ways no modern vocabulary can fully recover. To understand the figure, begin with scale. She is tiny. A monumental image overwhelms through height. The worshipper stands below it. The neck bends upward, and the body feels small beneath carved stone. Portable art creates another relationship because it comes close. The holder can turn the figure in the hand. The thumb passes over the abdomen. Fingers feel the grooves around the head. The stone begins cold and slowly warms against the skin. A large statue controls the room, while a small figure enters personal space. This difference changes sacred experience. The Venus does not confront the viewer from a distance. She is grasped, and her weight becomes part of the encounter. Touch is central. Repeated handling would smooth certain areas. Ochre might fade. Oil from the skin could enter the stone, while small chips formed during travel. The object would acquire a physical biography. A figure carried for years becomes entangled with the life of its owner. It accompanies hunger, It survives childbirth and passes through grief. Its surface remembers through wear. Modern museums remove this dimension. The figure now sits behind glass, with the light controlled and the temperature measured. The object rests in protective stillness. The museum saves the stone while erasing the old gestures. A thing made to move becomes fixed. A thing made to be touched becomes untouchable. This is unavoidable. Without protection, the figure would be damaged. Yet the cost is real. We see the object while losing the ritual life that gave it meaning. A chalice without a liturgy becomes a cup with unusually serious ambitions. The Venus without her gestures becomes an archaeological puzzle. Portable sacred form answers a practical problem. Holy places do not move. A cave enters the earth. A mountain rises toward the sky. A spring emerges from hidden ground. Such places become sacred partly because they remain where they are. Human beings must move. Ice Age communities followed animals across long distances. They searched for shelter as weather changed and left camps when local resources failed. A sacred place could anchor memory, but it could not follow the group. A figurine could. The small object allowed sacred meaning to travel through unstable conditions. It could enter a new shelter, remain close during illness, or be placed beside the dead. This is among the great discoveries of religious art. The sacred can be condensed. A power associated with a distant place can be given portable form. A memory can be carved into stone. An invisible protection can acquire weight. The figure becomes a movable center. This matters because movement threatens continuity. A camp disappears once people leave. Footprints fade, hides decay, and fire pits cool. A portable object remains. It links one season to another. Perhaps the Venus reminded a group of an ancestral homeland. Perhaps she preserved a ritual tradition across migration. Her form may have been recognized by people who lived far beyond the valley where she was found. The object could carry social memory. A child might see the same figure that an elder had carried decades earlier. A woman might receive it before marriage or pregnancy. The figure could outlive a single body and pass into another life. Stone offered continuity where flesh could not. The body carved at Willendorf is a body of abundance, though that abundance should not be confused with comfort. During the Ice Age, fullness could signify survival. Stored fat protected the body during hunger. It supported pregnancy and helped sustain nursing. A heavy body held time in reserve. When food became scarce, that reserve could keep life going. The figure may therefore embody a condition that was rare, desired, or sacred. Her breasts suggest nourishment. Her abdomen suggests pregnancy or stored strength. Her hips suggest the capacity to carry life. Modern viewers often approach fertility through sentiment. The word brings soft images to mind, green fields and spring returning. Prehistoric fertility was more severe. Pregnancy consumed strength. Birth brought blood. A mother could die, while a child could fail to live. Nursing depended upon the mother's body producing enough milk while food remained uncertain. Fertility stood beside death because every birth approached danger. A figure associated with reproduction would therefore carry fear along with hope. Her fullness might answer the terror of hunger. Her breasts might answer anxiety over failed nursing, while her belly answered the uncertainty surrounding conception or birth. Abundance becomes sacred where scarcity is always near. The figure's body presents life as more powerful than the conditions surrounding it. That may be why the proportions feel enlarged. The maker did not carve a neutral anatomical study. The body has been intensified because certain powers matter. The abdomen becomes the center. The breasts become a promise. The whole figure says that life can continue. The female body carried a mystery no prehistoric society could ignore. A woman conceived a child, and for months another human being remained hidden within her. The unseen life altered her hunger and changed her balance. It moved beneath the skin. The child was present but invisible. Then, through blood and pain, the concealed person entered the world. The invisible became visible. That event stands near the origin of sacred thought. Human beings saw life appear from within another body. They saw a person emerge where no person had been visible before. The female body became a threshold. The Venus figurine repeats this mystery in stone. The maker took an invisible idea and gave it mass. Fertility became something that could be held, while abundance received a surface. The possibility of life entered durable form. This is the central work of sacred art. Belief becomes material, hope becomes weight, and fear becomes a figure. The object fixes bodily power outside the body. A living woman passes through pregnancy, and her body changes again. The limestone woman remains full, her breasts never dry, and her belly never empties. She does not weaken through winter. Stone removes abundance from ordinary time. That permanence may have formed part of the object's sacred force. A temporary condition has been preserved as though it could endure forever. The figure offers an image of life beyond the instability of life. The absence of a face deepens the effect because a face creates individuality. It tells us we are meeting one person. The Willendorf figure refuses that meeting. No eyes look outward, no mouth speaks, and no expression offers reassurance. The body carries the meaning. Perhaps the face was hidden beneath hair. Perhaps the grooves represent a cap. The maker may have decided that facial features were unnecessary. Whatever the reason, anonymity expands the figure. She can become many women. She may represent motherhood rather than one mother. She may embody ancestry rather than one ancestor. The lowered head also closes her inward. She does not address an audience. She appears absorbed within her own body. This posture resembles pregnancy itself. Something important remains hidden, and the figure holds a secret. Modern viewers often want a sacred image to look back. We expect recognition. The Venus denies us that satisfaction. She can be held, though she cannot be known. Her body is near, while her identity remains distant. This tension gives the figure unusual power. She is intimate without becoming personal. She is human without becoming a portrait. She belongs to the hand while escaping the mind. This has caused considerable trouble for modern interpretation. Scholars prefer objects that answer questions. The Venus of Willendorf has declined the appointment. She has been called a fertility goddess and treated as prehistoric erotica. Some have interpreted her as a self-image made by a pregnant woman looking down at her own body. Each theory notices something genuine. The figure does emphasize reproductive features. She may carry erotic force, and her unusual proportions might reflect a downward view of the body. Yet none of these proposals can be proved. The object remains silent. The phrase fertility goddess is especially attractive because it sounds complete. It supplies religion, function, and identity in 2 words. The confidence may exceed the evidence. A sacred female figure does not require a developed goddess with myths or priesthood. The object may have represented a power rather than a divine personality. It could have served as a charm or held ancestral presence. Perhaps it was used during initiation or childbirth. Meaning may have lived in repeated action. A figure becomes sacred because of what people do with it. It is carried at a certain time, touched in a certain manner, or placed near a body in danger. The ritual may matter as much as the image. Museums preserve form while stripping away sequence. We encounter the Venus alone. Her companions are gone and the songs have vanished. Spoken names left no trace. The object remains after the ceremony has died. The red ochre offers another clue. The figure was not always pale stone because pigment once covered much of the surface. Red ochre appears frequently in prehistoric symbolic life. It was placed in graves and applied to cave walls. It was carried over long distances. Its color resembles blood, a resemblance that may have connected it to birth. It could also have evoked wounds or death. We cannot assume one fixed meaning, though the labor involved tells us the pigment mattered. Ochre had to be found and ground before it could be applied. Color demanded intention. A red figure held near fire would appear far more bodily than the pale object seen today. The grooves around the head would darken. The belly would catch shifting light, while the breasts cast small shadows. As the flame moved, the figure might seem to breathe. The pigment brought stone closer to flesh. It also connected the object to the earth. Ochre comes from ground material. The body was carved from stone, then reddened with earth. A human form emerged from mineral matter. This change may have possessed religious force of its own. The maker did not merely copy a body, the maker awakened a body within stone. The material itself had traveled. The limestone used for the Venus of Willendorf does not appear to have come from the immediate place where she was found. The stone arrived from elsewhere. Perhaps raw material was carried. Perhaps the finished figure moved through exchange. The precise route remains uncertain, though the movement matters. Prehistoric communities were not sealed inside tiny worlds. People crossed long distances while objects passed between groups. Knowledge traveled with them. A portable figure could connect separate communities through recognizable form. Someone seeing the object might understand its proportions. The ochre may have marked a shared practice. The figure could announce belonging without spoken explanation. Portable sacred art therefore carries social power because it moves belief across geography. A cave painting waits for the visitor. A figurine goes out into the world. This difference changes the range of religion. Sacred meaning can enter trade or marriage. It can accompany migration. A figure crossing between groups may gain new meanings while preserving old ones. The object becomes a traveler. Its identity grows through movement. By the time it is buried or lost, it may hold a history far larger than its size suggests. Sculpture also changes the manner in which sacred form is encountered. A painted image lies upon a surface. One side is shown, and the viewer receives the angle chosen by the painter. A figure possesses a front and a back. It must be turned. The holder sees the belly first. Then the side of the breast appears, followed by the curve of the back. The thighs gather below. No single position reveals the whole object. Meaning unfolds through movement, and the hand becomes part of perception. This gives sculpture bodily presence. The figure occupies space as the holder does. It has weight and boundary. It casts a shadow. The sacred has gained volume. This is a decisive development in human image making. The invisible no longer appears only as a mark upon stone. It can be lifted. It can be placed beside a sleeping person or carried through darkness. Later religions would return to this human desire again and again. People carried amulets. Household images stood near food and sleep. Relics accompanied travelers. The beliefs changed, though the need remained familiar. People want sacred presence close during danger. A holy mountain cannot enter a shelter. A cave cannot be placed beside a sick child. A small figure can. Portable sacred form places concentrated order inside private disorder. The hand becomes a shrine. The Venus figurines also stand where reverence meets desire. Their bodies possess erotic force. The breasts are prominent while the pubic region is marked. The hips command attention. This does not reduce them to erotic objects. Sexuality and fertility were bound together. Desire could lead to conception, while conception altered kinship. A birth changed the future of the group. The sexual body carried consequences. Modern culture often separates eroticism from religion. Prehistoric life may have offered fewer walls between them. Sex created life, while life created obligation. The body linked pleasure with danger. Sacred power often appears where human control becomes uncertain. Desire arrives without permission. Pregnancy follows its own rhythm, and birth begins at its own hour. The body exceeds deliberate will. The female form may have stood at this boundary. It was familiar enough to invite touch, yet mysterious enough to inspire fear. Everyone came from such a body. No one fully commanded its deepest processes. The Venus condenses that mystery. She can be grasped, though she cannot be mastered. This may explain why the figure feels powerful, even without a known theology. Her body represents forces that no individual person owns: sex and birth, nourishment and age, the continuation of the group. The object places these powers inside a form small enough to hold, yet too old to explain. Some scholars have proposed that the figure represents age rather than pregnancy. The heavy breasts might belong to a mature woman. The body may show someone who has borne children. If so, the Venus could embody authority. An older woman in a prehistoric community might hold crucial knowledge. She could understand birth and remember seasons. She might recognize plants that others overlooked. The figure may therefore signify accumulated survival rather than youthful fertility. This interpretation changes the emotional register. The body becomes an archive. Its fullness records experience, while its age signals endurance. A faceless elder can stand for the memory of the group. This possibility deserves attention because modern culture often treats the female body through youth. Prehistoric societies may have valued survival differently. A woman who reached old age had crossed dangers that killed many others. Her body testified to endurance. Her knowledge could guide younger people through birth or hunger. The Venus may therefore contain fertility and age at once. The body that gave life becomes the body that remembers how life is preserved. This would make the figure ancestral in a deep sense. She would represent continuity through flesh and memory. A small stone woman could hold the authority of many generations. There is another possibility. Perhaps women made these figures themselves. The theory cannot be proved, though it changes the way the object is heard in the mind. A woman looks downward at her own body. The breasts fill the upper view. The belly projects beyond them, while the feet appear small or vanish beneath the abdomen. The face cannot be seen. The body from that angle resembles the Willendorf figure. If a pregnant woman carved what she saw while looking down, the unusual proportions would become less mysterious. The figure would be a bodily self-image rather than an image made for outside viewing. This theory carries beauty. It suggests that some of the earliest human sculptures may have emerged from women observing their own transformed bodies. Yet caution remains necessary. The figures may have been made by men. They might have been copied from inherited models, while their proportions followed ritual convention rather than direct observation. Still, the proposal reminds us that prehistoric women were not passive subjects waiting to be represented. They made tools and new materials. They carried ritual knowledge. The hand that carved the Venus may have belonged to a woman who understood the body from within. That possibility should remain open. Across later history, civilizations would build temples around fertility. The earth would be described as maternal. Divine women would govern birth and death, while sacred rites connected the survival of the people with the fruitfulness of the land. The Venus figurines do not prove that such systems already existed. They reveal something earlier. Human beings had learned to separate bodily power from one body and place it in an image. A pregnancy ended, while the carved belly remained. A mother died, though the stone breasts endured. A child was lost, yet the figure continued to carry the form of life. Sacred art rescues meaning from individual loss. The object does not defeat death. It gives grief a durable answer. A frightened woman can hold fullness. A hungry group can preserve an image of abundance. A bereaved family can touch a body that does not decay. Stone becomes a shelter for hope. This may be the deepest religious power of the Venus figurines. They preserve continuity against disappearance. The people who made them lived close to death. The figure insists that life possesses form, that form can be remembered, and that it can be carried. The modern afterlife of the Venus of Willendorf is almost as complicated as her prehistoric one. She has become a symbol of motherhood and an emblem of female power. She has entered debates about beauty. Replicas appear in classrooms and private shrines, while her image circulates online. She has become portable again, though now she travels as light on a screen. This modern fame invites projection. Some see proof of an ancient mother religion, while others see resistance to modern standards of thinness. The figure is recruited into arguments that began long after her maker disappeared. These uses may have meaning for the present. They remain modern uses. The original world cannot be recovered so easily, and that distance should inspire restraint. Mystery does not grant permission to invent freely. It asks us to remain honest about what has been lost. Someone knew what the figure meant. Someone knew when to hold her and where she belonged. Someone may have spoken a name that vanished before writing existed. The object survives after the name has gone. This silence is part of her power. She stands before history, belonging to a time when belief was enacted more often than explained. The figure may never have required a doctrine. Its meaning lived through touch. The Venus figurines mark a decisive moment in the history of sacred art. The painted animal belonged to the wall. The carved woman entered the hand. Her small body gathered fear surrounding birth and hunger. Her fullness expressed the hope that life might continue. Her scale allowed sacred presence to move through an unstable world. Perhaps she was a goddess or an ancestor. Perhaps she was a charm held during labor by a woman whose voice has vanished completely. The exact answer lies beyond us. The gesture does not. A human being lifted a piece of stone and carved it into the form from which every human life emerges. The figure was painted red and carried across cold ground. She entered shelters and remained beside the living through nights when survival was uncertain. Her face was hidden. Her body spoke. The earliest sacred architecture may have fit inside a closed hand. Within it rested a woman who could not stand alone yet carried the weight of life itself.
Join us again for the grand vision.